Even the biggest silver doubters are toying with the idea of $50 silver soon. In this video, I'm going to explain that pathway. In reality, it's more of a battle line that we're going to be marching towards that $50 mark. And so we're going to talk about what's going to be happening on the way there and why it's inevitable. Let's explore. And that's a fairly powerful claim, inevitability, but I think most would agree that it's a safe bet to make that $50 is coming. Now, when that happens is another story. For the last 5 years, I have done predictions on the price of silver and have been wrong at the first couple of years only because I over-predicted. In other words, I thought it was going to go higher than it actually did. I've always been bullish on silver in terms of what it is as a metal, but I've been also overly bullish on it in terms of its price. And notwithstanding, I like to be as realistic as I can about the metal, but nonetheless, I believe now that we're probably going to get there, but I'm not ready to make a prediction quite yet. But I'm going to be referencing a piece here by James Hierzik that explains a little bit what the thoughts are by other analysts out there about where silver is going and why this is coming next. That's the next target. And it really is a battle. And there's going to be some resistance. As of the recording of this video, silver's price has pulled back somewhat. But it is still about $3.20 some odd cents away from $50. It's not that far off. And when we saw the gains that we've seen in the past couple of weeks, well, it's really not that big of a deal to make a prediction for $50 silver. But nonetheless, pullbacks are opportunities for sure, and dollar cost averaging is important. My friends at Summit Metals, they know this, and they have excellent customer service. I placed another order with them recently. You probably saw it in a recent video. Great people, fast shipping, and excellent customer service. So check them out at the link in the description below. And this is pretty remarkable what we're seeing with this rally. Now, who knows where the price is going to be by the time you see this video? It could have pulled back even more. I think to some extent, we are overdue for a bit of a fairly big consolidation or correction, rather. But I think that's just going to buoy up for the next move up. And I think that's coming. It's just the timing is going to be what we're seeing. But this is something that's kind of remarkable to see as silver spot has started the week strong, tagging yet a new 14-year high. When you think about that, once it reaches $50 an ounce, well, that 14-year high is going to move to a 25-year high or 45-year high. I tell you what is crazy how things move so fast in time. Back to 1980, it's just crazy. That's the last time it was $50 an ounce. But that's in nominal dollars, obviously. It's a big move with no clear resistance until the long-term $49.81 level, which is a technical price target, but that big psychological target is $50. It's hard to ignore what the market is trying to do. Buyers are clearly in control, and it doesn't take a lot of imagination to see that they've got their eyes on a major breakout. Now, all of the fundamentals are adding to this sentiment, and that's why most people are bullish on it now, myself included. Rate cut expectations are doing the heavy lifting right now. The market's now pricing in a 90% chance of a 25 basis point Fed cut in October, with another one lined up for December at a 66% chance. Those numbers may have changed even more recently by the time you see that over the Fed Watch tool. We saw the PCE data that was released last week and didn't get in the way. Core inflation held steady at 2.9%, and headline PCE ticked up a touch to 2.7%. So the market wants to believe the Fed is done hiking, and traders are leaning towards an easing cycle. That's weighing on the dollar as well. The dollar index has slipped under the 50-day moving average, and that's giving another leg higher, or giving silver another leg higher. Weaker dollar makes silver cheaper for overseas buyers, and it's clear that international demand is helping drive the rally, and sure is. On the physical side, silver's got a few tailwinds. Analyst Rob Norman points to two drivers here in this situation: increased industrial activity on rate cuts and higher inventory stockpiling by nations worried about future availability of the physical metal. Silver is now facing its fifth consecutive structural deficit, and with supply chain still shaky, buyers are stepping in while they can. Now, I got to stop right there because I have to remind myself, as I remind you, that is according to really mostly metals focus, but there's another group, CPM, who last I heard believes that the supply is tightening, but there is still somewhat of a surplus of silver in some markets. But nonetheless, they acknowledge as well that they are tightening up. And so I think by all measures, even the most conservative measure, that's part of the reason why the price has gone up, as well as inflation. And none of those metrics is going to be changing anytime soon, no matter what the economy does or no matter what else is in play in terms of geopolitics. And in rising demand from solar, EVs, and electronics, you've got plenty of support underneath it. Silver's even outpaced gold this year, up 53% year to date versus gold's 49%. And so when we see, looking at the technical side, silver still has room. Of course, it's got room in a whole lot of different ways, even at $50. $50 is cheap when we take into account how much it was, even outside of the peaks. That's right. The peak of $50 in 2011 and the peak of $50 in 1980, you look at both sides of those peaks for that time frame, silver has a long way to go to reach an all-time high when adjusted for inflation. So resistance doesn't really show up until around the $49.81 to the $50 mark is where the resistance is for silver right now. On the downside, the first support level sits at $44.22, which means that we could see deeper floors or silver move back, and that would be a pretty big clawback in price to go all the way down to $44.22 if that first support. In other words, there's a lot of headroom, really more headroom to the downside than to the upside, I think, which could be discouraging to some. Do not be discouraged if we see silver move back there for a while. But there are deeper floors at hand, the article continues here. One at $41.14, then $40.73, and then $40. That's right, $40 is the deepest, probably most solid floor, with a 50-day moving average holding around $40.03, probably where buyers show up if we get a pullback. That's right. So in other words, people might take advantage of that big time if silver gets to $40 again. Part of me would like to see that as a buyer. I'd like to be able to opportunity to get a little bit more silver, but also gold too would obviously go back as well. But the bottom line is that their momentum is really on silver's side. Supportive conditions and a clear upside target. $50 is in sight right now. More likely than not, it's going to test it. And as he says here, he's not making any predictions either. Time will tell. I still may do a prediction and a revised prediction video. We'll see. But nonetheless, that is what we're looking at. In other words, we've got resistance right up in that range, $50. So there's 19 cents between that first resistance at $49.81 technically to the $50. $50 is really where it is. And we may see it, but more likely, if we do see it before there's some massive resistance for a pullback down with some headroom slipping back down to below the $49 range or $49.80 range, then we could see several touches to $50 or a little bit above it. Now, very briefly, I think to some extent, the market itself would like to see it touch there briefly. And the thing is, the frequency of trades and how the reporting was done back in 2011 and 1980, I don't know. You heard me talk about the beginning of this piece, how $49.81 was kind of was kind of the one of the bars, but I think that's a technical resistance, clear resistance. But I don't know what the actual number was in 1980 and 2011, but I don't think it actually reached $50. when average for the day, but it could have touched on there at some point in time in trading. But I think it would be pretty cool to see that happen. When it will happen and how it will happen, we kind of know how it will happen, but when it will happen will be the other thing. But the path is going to be continuing to see data support what's going on with regards to some of the numbers, the employment numbers, which are going to feed into what the Fed is going to do. Solidifying more cuts by the Fed is going to make silver look more attractive. And also geopolitical concerns, anything like that, and domestic political concerns with regards to the shutdown. In fact, that's going to be happening this week. And whether or not there's not going to be a shutdown, I think that will weigh in a little bit with spot prices of both gold and silver, but not too much, I don't think. But I think it could drive them up a little bit more. But we'll see how that plays out. So that is the pathway, or the in a sense, the march. And it seems like there's a lot of people that are itching for it and aching for it. And there may be some buyers that pop in here, in a sense, maybe even to just for fun to kind of manipulate it up to that level. It wouldn't surprise me, and just to say that it got there, but who knows. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section down below. Hope you found this video informative, insightful, and educational. Would like to extend a multitude of gratitude to each and every one of you for taking the time to watch, and to encourage you to please rate, share, comment, and subscribe.